Welcome to the Exec Hub Podcast, where we learn and hear from business owners and executives. Today we have with us Mark Fogas. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Epsilon CRM. It is one of the nation's leading customer relationship marketing firms, and it's a division of Publicis Groupe, the largest marketing firm in the world. He has 35 years of strategic marketing experience, and he's led teams in marketing for the NBA, NFL, and AT&T. He's recently been recognized for the fourth year as one of the top 500 most influential leaders in Atlanta by Atlanta Magazine. Mark, how's your week been going?
Hey Liz, I'm having a great week. It is Friday, so looking forward to taking a little bit of a breather, but having a good one. How's yours been so far?
Been going great. And are you in Atlanta today?
I am in Atlanta today. I'm glad to be home. Glad to be home this week. Been on the road a lot lately. And while this as a video will age over time, and folks will, because with the internet everything lives forever. But we're still impacted by two hurricanes over the past 2 weeks, and so this past week the second hurricane impacted friends and family members in Florida. So it was a good week.
Yeah,
to
that's
be
been
home
rough.
and paying attention to, and caring for many friends and family. But happy to be home and having an opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you today.
Yeah, glad to have you on the podcast. So tell us a little bit about Epsilon and what y'all do.
Yeah, Epsilon, we are a approaching 50-year-old company, and the way I kind of think about it is we provide all the products and services necessary for companies to produce advertising and marketing. So we provide data, we're a data originator, and technology, and then digital media, and then the services to bring those things to life in support of more than 2,000 clients around the globe. And as you noted, we are part of the Publicis group of companies, and Publicis today is responsible for purchasing over a third of all the media that is purchased on behalf of clients, around the world. Epsilon CRM, when you think about it, for the most part, we are what we call the lower funnel part of the business. So lower funnel is really about engagement marketing. So when a marketer wants really to encourage a customer or a prospect to take a specific action, we help them to do that through services, across pretty much any channel other than what they call above the line media. So if you're doing TV, we pretty much don't do that, or radio, we occasionally do, but for the most part, if you think about email and social and direct mail, any form of direct marketing that encourages people to take a specific action, that's what our teams do.
That's great. And how many employees do you manage at your company?
My team is about 500 people around the globe, so doing lots of different things.
And how are you able to keep your team on board with the company mission and strategy when you have such a large team?
Yeah, I think as teams get larger, it's an interesting conversation that I talk to leaders, both the leaders on my team as well as leaders of other companies. That's a topic we discuss with some regularity. And I think for any leader that's probably watching your podcast today would probably attest to the fact that as businesses grow, when you're in a small team, your personality really helps you in that communication. But as your team gets larger and as your team gets more dispersed, it becomes more difficult to become a personality-led organization. And making sure that as you identify other leaders that become part of the team, that you have alignment in mission and in vision becomes important. So making sure that you have alignment among your leadership team members, at least from a mission and vision perspective. I regularly say, I don't want to be surrounded by people who think the way that I do or who approach things the way that I do. I want diversity in thought, but who can that are aligned with me from a standpoint of understanding our mission and our vision. But I think the one key thing is how I stay aligned with my teams is really about being intentional. And I think it's a great way from a how we live our lives perspective about being intentional. One of the things I share with my kids, and one of the things we talk about as a leadership team, is a saying that nothing left unattended gets better. Whether we're talking about our fitness, or whether we're talking about our personal health, or whether we're talking about our progress towards the achievement of professional or personal goals, if we're not paying attention, it doesn't get better. So we try to be intentional about communication. I probably, on a monthly basis, I do roundtables with different groups of team members, and of course, things like Teams and Zoom make that easier when you're managing large teams of people that are across the globe. And then I probably do about 50 one-on-ones a year. And it's so funny, when I first got this role about 5 years ago, at the end of my first all hands with 500 people, I said, hey, and if you're interested, please reach out and grab 30 minutes on my calendar, because I would love to hear your story. I'd love to hear more about the work that you're doing and how you got here and the things that are going well for you and the challenges you're dealing with. And one of the folks who reports to me came to me and he goes, somebody came up to him and goes, that guy, he can't meet with 500 people. What is he talking about? And I said, I'm not so naive as to believe for an instant that 500 people have any interest in talking to me. But those who do, I'd love to hear their story, and it helps me to stay grounded in the business. So being intentional every day about communication, and communication means both ways, really helps me, helps folks to hear my heart and my vision and the things that are important in the business, and helps me to stay connected to the team.
It's great. I really like being intentional. And tell us how you're able to encourage your team to provide excellent customer service and ensure that they're doing that. What are some ways you do that?
Yeah, I think about the fact that feedback is a gift, and my mom always used to say, whenever anybody gives you a gift, you always remember to say thank you. And so it's sometimes difficult to get hard feedback. One of the things I had a leader say to me once was, we don't always just pursue feedback from the people that we know are fans. It's important to find feedback from people that we know are not always fans of ours, because and to receive that feedback in silence, not feel compelled to try and provide a counter argument to the feedback. Because the thing that I always have said to my folks, and that I try to serve as a role model around, is that feedback is a gift. And even if I disagree with the feedback, right? So even if I receive the feedback and I disagree with it, where I always find value is to say, even if I disagree with the feedback, and the question to ask myself is, but why might they think that, right? So I disagree with you, but why might you think that? And I think there's fruit to be born in that. So I think always pursuing feedback and to be reflective. So experience can be a great teacher. It doesn't have to be a great teacher, and to stay connected to people. And then the other thing I think is always that clear is kind is something that we say. So, and clearly and well understood expectations. When people have clearly understood expectations, it actually reduces organizational stress. So we try to be clear about articulating expectations, and when we do that, it actually reduces organizational stress. When organizational expectations aren't clearly understood, that really increases organizational stress. And so we work diligently to make sure everybody understands what the expectations are, because that reduces the stress of the organization.
Yeah, getting feedback, I could see, could be very definitely helpful as well, like you said. And what would you say is some great advice you've been received from a mentor or leader that you'd like to share with everybody that's encouraged you throughout the years?
I think it is kind of funny. One of the things that over the course of a really lengthy career, at one point in my career, I would write down something from every one of the leaders that I worked for, because I think that there's something fruitful to be gained from everybody. And one of the leaders that I worked for, at one point I worked at AT&T in Bell South for 20 years, and I had a boss who said to me, my job isn't it's not really fruitful for me to simply tell you that you're great at everything you do, because that's not going to help you to grow in your role. So I do think that in many instances, uh, and Jan Harrelson, if she were watching this, she's the person, because in many instances, people are, when they ask for feedback, she said, they're not really pursuing feedback, they're pursuing affirmation. So I think it's important to note that when we're asking for feedback, let's be honest in pursuing feedback. And if we really are pursuing affirmation, then let's be clear that we're looking for affirmation, and having honesty in what it is that we're pursuing, I think, is an important thing. Her counsel to me was that in giving me challenging feedback, that would help me to grow as a professional, and that counsel served me well, because we all have opportunities to improve. And the second thing that I'll say is, a gentleman, his name was Jerry Andrews. He said, anybody, when we achieve a certain level of success in our careers, everybody has opinions about areas where we could improve. Everybody has an opinion about me, where they think my strengths are and what they think my weaknesses are. He said, but there's a finite opportunity for us to improve. And we are the ones who get to decide where we're going to invest in ourselves. And so I think it's important to receive that feedback, and then we're the ones who get to make the decision where we're going to invest in ourselves. Because just because someone else thinks something is a weakness doesn't mean we have to believe it's a weakness. And so having the objectivity to evaluate those things independently is probably an important aspect. It requires introspection, and you can't just be whipped about by other people's opinions. That was my mom's piece of feedback. She said, other people's opinions about me are none of my opinion. And I think, or none of my business. Mom used to say, other people's opinions about you are none of your business. And so that was good counsel as well.
That's really good. Yeah, I know feedback's very valuable, as we all have blind spots, and I've valued it every time I've gotten it. So, can you tell me, I know that people pay you to help them build marketing strategies and execute those strategies. What's something our audience might want to keep in mind as a tip as they're going to market?
Yeah, I think that's a good one to keep in mind. Here's what I would say: as a small or a medium business, as you're getting started, the thing to keep in mind is that as businesses, I think we start a business to help customers solve a problem. And sometimes that problem is through a product, sometimes that problem is through a service, and we can't solve that problem or service if customers and prospects aren't aware that we exist. And so sometimes we might think that problem, or that they become aware of our business because they drive past us because of where we've located our business, and they can become aware of that. Marketing helps us to make customers or prospects aware that we're there. So marketing plays an important role, and where we're going to greet customers and prospects on the journey of understanding that we have the ability to help them to solve a need, to meet a need that they have. So I think it's important to note, that whether it's through social media or through email or through direct mail, or that marketing has a role to play. And as you make more people aware of the service or the product that you have available, you can make yourself known, and present more people of an opportunity of availing themselves of your product or your service. And so it's something to think about. But it has an important role to play on a day-to-day basis. AT&T does it when they make people, 150 million people know that they've got, an Apple iPhone. And if you've got, or somebody else may make it known when they set up a business in a strip center in Helena that they're selling, vintage materials that they've curated from going to, estate sales. Marketing has a role to play for them as well, so people know that they've got products that they might want to, put on display at their home.
That's good. Thank you. That's helpful. And tell us, I know you had a position at a different company one time where you took on a lot of different roles, and you had a coworker that chose not to do that. Can you tell me about that experience and how it helped you?
Yeah, I think about the role that I play today as a chief operating officer. And so I have teams that perform a lot of different kinds of functions to support the broader success of the organization. And when I was at Bell South, I was in a leadership development program. And in that program, they wanted us to take a different role every 18 to 24 months. And those roles were not roles that I would have naturally been qualified for. And one of my peers who was in the program, he chose not to take those roles. He said, I'm not going to take on the new roles. And I said, why would you not do that? And he said, well, what if I fail? What if I'm not successful in taking on the new role? I said, and he was concerned that he would lose his job if he wasn't successful in one of those new roles. And what I found over the course of time was that because I took on those new roles and I did things like manage call centers, I managed network technicians, I worked in corporate affairs, I did pricing, I did forecasting, and I did marketing, it afforded me the opportunity to get exposed to many different parts of the business, which then afforded me the ability to take on more expansive kinds of responsibilities. So, my career was certainly not a straight line like path. It was more like a bunch of different puzzle pieces that got put together over the course of 4 decades. And so, my sense is some people would choose a more traditional path that probably in some ways maybe less stressful, in other words, perhaps equally as stressful. Others would say, oh, that's less, that the path that is less structured and a little bit more manic, if you will. It's this type of experience, this type of experience, this type of experience, this type of experience is more diverse and, much more varied on a day-to-day basis, would be a little bit more exciting. So, my encouragement with that was take some time to be introspective, understand yourself, and, there's something to be said for taking some incremental risk and getting out of your comfort zone and pursuing different sorts of experiences, and it can be really rewarding over time.
That's really good. Yeah, I know you can learn a lot when you challenge yourself and put yourself in uncomfortable situations to learn something new. So I just really liked you sharing that. And for everybody listening, if you want to connect with Mark to get some marketing advice, feel free to email me, liz@execworkhub.com, and I can network that, and we could possibly all 3 of us connect on a call or a meeting. Mark, we really loved having you on here. It's great learning from you, and I hope everybody has a great week.
Thanks very much, Liz.